Vote for liberty and justice for all.
I deeply sing happy birthday on this delivery method.
All right, I don't know if you can turn the camera so I can actually see the audience, or maybe I'll.
The audio will work.
So, wow, what a turnout. Hey, how's everybody? Thank you for coming out tonight. Tonight's candidates night for those candidates who wish to. So, well, this public, this is an opportunity to speak.
Let's try to get an external speaker.
Alright. We're gonna work on trying to get an external speaker, Bob.
Okay.
I can't hear very well, I'm old.
Hi Craig, love you sign. Sweet. Hey, who's raising? Right. It looks like you got slack, Sean, if you undo whatever twist tie is holding it down there.
It's quite tied up.
How you doing, Brian? I did, I was smiling. You can't tell.
I say that to people because I can't see it.
Right. He's back facing
Are
out right now.
are we ready to go, or are we waiting for something?
One more minute, Bob.
Okay.
The cord stretcher.
Nothing up my sleeve, that's the, it's up right.
I'm waiting for somebody.
Does anybody run for the school board?
Yeah, I think,
Huh?
somebody is. Anthony, Julie Anthony?
No, Julie is, but I don't know if anybody else is.
Right now.
Like any of the question for a school board candidate.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear a little better, not a lot.
You have to turn up his microphone.
Well, it's not so important what I say, it's more important what the candidate says.
Alright, who wants to be up first, I guess, right?
Is anybody letting anybody in the waiting room?
So we have three candidates for selectmen, Jason Sombro, Lou Alvarez, and Charlie Jackson. Is anybody in the office tonight?
Lou Alvarez?
All right, you wanna come forward and speak, Lou?
Scott, I don't know if you wanna move, but for, and where you want us. You can admit all also.
I'm just wondering, where's the best, just go to the head of the head table.
No, but like across the wires or past the, behind Scott might be
Behind.
better too.
Scott, I'm coming behind you.
Perspective on Zoom, I would say at the head of the table.
There you go. Oh, man.
Can you see me okay?
I can, I can even
We
hear you.
can.
This will be
I
better.
can see you okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name's Lou Alvarez. I am running for a position on the select board. I've been a resident of this town since 1989. I am currently a member of the planning board and have been with that, in that position as an alternate and as a appointed and an elected member for going on 4 years now. I'm a retired engineer from a medical equipment manufacturer, and my job had encompassed quite a bit of travel, which kept me from actually getting involved with town affairs during most of the years that I've lived here. until I retired in 2017. Since then, I joined the planning board as an alternate member, and then got very involved with that, and have enjoyed actually meeting all the people and watching all the accomplishments that we as a group had done over all of that time period. There was a lot of work. There were some very large projects, quite a few small ones, and I just thought I would give it a chance to get up into the select board since David Leish has decided to step down or retire from his position, and hopefully be able to add more to the whole town and to the whole group as a new member. I don't have much else to say. And does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. I'm very unhappy with selectmen in general, because they spend like we're going out of style, and they compare ourselves with rich towns. We're a little bedroom town, we don't got much business support, we don't got Millipore and all this to support this lot of the spend. And the budget is up 8%, the capital reserve in 6 years is up 57%. That's just going totally out of control. And I understand some of the raise that they give. I mean, we shouldn't be comparing police officers that are wages with big towns. I don't think selectmen really think much about taxpayers. And we need some extremely poor selectmen, so they feel it themselves.
Okay, I'm living off of Social Security right now. That's what I've saved over the years from working. But I understand where you're coming from, and it's one of those that, without having access to the information that the selectmen have had over the years, that I can't respond properly to your points, other than to say that the one thing that I am cognizant of is the fact that we had hired, or the police department had hired a number of new officers straight out of school, had sent them off to the academy, and some of them had gone over to places like Jaffrey or Ringe or other places, simply because they were offering a whole lot more money.
Could I just respond a couple things? Number one, we always hear police officers, oh, they're so concerned about us and our safety, and they're risking their lives for us. We always hear that. As soon as they get a little more money, they run off, they don't get a rat's rear end about us. I don't think they care anything about us. If they did, why don't they stick around and keep to their word? But I also would like to respond to, what do you think of spending fund balance, saving fund balance to build a police station? I think fund balance should go to offset taxes.
I don't disagree with you. However, what do we have for a police station now? Acura have recently just bought that property, and so we don't know what the result of that motion is going to be, or what the result is going to be from that. Is the police department going to be able to stay in that location for a period of time? Or, well, let me take it back to you. Where would you put the police department if they lost that?
Well, they don't wanna hear what I say. We had a perfectly good place to have the police department. They resolved this problem with mold and all that. And so, I'm not interested in building any big police station. And another thing too is, when they talk about all the money we're gonna save because they're not paying rent, we have to also consider, as I understand, Warwick Mills is renting part of the building, so we gotta consider the cost, the revenue we're gonna lose also. So not only are we going to have a expensive police station, we're gonna also lose revenue.
Okay, it would certainly take that into consideration. However, one of the problems that I see with that police station, and to give you a little bit of background, I was part of the original committee that was looking at building a police station. And I don't know if you ever got a hold of it, but there's a manual basically about what goes, put out by the FBI as to what goes into police stations, even ones for small towns. And what we found from the police station that we had was that there was a significant level of things that they did not have that met the minimum requirements of a police station. That was opening up the department and the town to several lawsuits if things just did not go properly. That
Because he cares so much about us. Okay, keep going. Well, you know, the police, they just love us and care about us and risk their lives for us. Okay, but anyways.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, if I do get elected, which I hope to, we can sit down and we can talk about that further. And I can get you all the details that you have, and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Hey, that's fair enough from your point. And,
Is it fair enough from your point?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Any other?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
All right, did I see Jason was online?
I'm here. I have a weak Wi-Fi connection. Good evening. Can you hear?
I believe so.
Oh,
So go ahead and speak, Jason. Tell us about you and your candidacy.
well, I was born and raised in New Ipswich. Have raised half my family so far in New Ipswich. Half of them have moved out. And through the years, I've looked at volunteering. I see all the other folks in town volunteering for Little League and basketball, but I've had so many kids, I haven't had an opportunity. Now with half the kids moved out, I am running for selectman to put in my time, to do my part to keep the, I would say, like the character and the spirit of this town that I love.
All right. Are there any questions for Jason?
Yeah, I kind of had some of the same issue with Jason also. That, I mean, Jason knows my stand. He's my cousin. He knows where I stand. I don't have to repeat anything. But we really need more conservative selectmen that think about people in this town that are not necessarily as well off as they are. And it's very important. I've been preaching this sermon for probably 35 or more years, and somehow or another, they think I'm the idiot, but we see in our tax bills that I'm really not.
Well, I would say my outlook on taxes, I think it's absolutely necessary that we have enough funds to run the town. But I also see, how would you say it, like an inseparable link between money and freedom. And when you taxes go too high, what it does is it limits the freedom that families have to do the things that families do. So I'm very much sensitive to the high taxes. I've gone through a couple of recessions here in, well, right now I'm in Tennessee, but here in town, and I know what it is when you're trying to find pennies.
Any other questions for Jason? Well, thank you, Jason, for joining us remotely.
All right.
Are there any other candidates for selectmen in the audience?
I'm here.
Charlie's here.
So Charlie Jackman? All right, please come forward.
Good evening, folks. My name's Charlie Jackman. I've been up here roughly since 2015. When I joined New Ipswich Fire, I saw the importance of this town. My wife had some health issues when we first got up in here, and we had such an outpouring of support from people we didn't know. We absolutely love this town. The friends and the family that we've met here really gave me a real thought about trying to keep the town intact and working with the taxpayers, the residents, to try to find some sort of a balance. Brian, I know you've always had your opinions on things, and I have a pretty close resemblance to some things that you want to see happen and change. We need to be better at trying to save money in town. We also need to be better with taking care of our neighbors in town. A little background of me. Like I said, I came up here in 2015. I'm currently a chief engineer for a data center for JP Morgan Chase. So I'm in and out of town quite a bit. I'm also a volunteer firefighter with New Ipswich and also Greenville. So I have a little bit of knowledge of what happens here in town and in some of the surrounding towns. My viewpoint for being a selectman would probably be totally different than everybody else's. I believe in the small town atmosphere. I believe in the mom and pop stores. I'm not a big box person. Taxes, that's the biggest thing with this town. Everybody's looking at why are our taxes going up. We all as selectmen will need to sit down and really dig into the tax bills and find out why everything's going up, why we're spending more, why is the school asking more money of us. The infrastructure needs to be improved. There's a lot of maintenance that I see that needs to be done in town, and if I get elected, that would be my priority. Any questions?
Are you voting for the budget?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm sure not going to.
No. As far as the school is concerned, I do agree that we do need a good education for our children. I would have to actually sit down and read the school budget bill to see exactly what they're looking for. I know in past sessions what their actual budget is, and I would really want to spend some time actually reading that and finding how everything's broken down.
I was talking town budget when I asked, right?
Yep. No, you said school.
No, I said, are you voting for the budget?
I need to sit down and actually see what the budget consists of before I make that decision.
I'm certainly not voting for the school budget, but I'm not voting for the town either.
Why wouldn't you vote for the town budget? Give me a little bit of a heads up of what you're seeing.
If you've heard me for 35, 40
I have.
years.
I've heard you for
okay,
5.
Well.
I know about the 5.
You've only heard the small part.
Okay, fill me in.
Okay. Taxes have just kept going up and up and up. And
I agree.
And I believe in doing things mutual aid.
Yep.
Not just with fire, with police, we should have more mutual, and not have such an outrageous budget. Our budget's close to what some years ago a whole town budget was just for police. And also, I'm not happy, and I know I'm picking on the police, but they certainly have come after me with a vengeance in the last meeting when I was on the budget committee.
Okay.
And that was it. I decided I ain't gonna do anything for this town if they can act like that. But many years ago, Ray Broadley kept saying, we need more police for 24-hour coverage. And he kept asking for it, year after year, 1 officer, 2 officers, whatever. He kept asking for it. Finally, the town gave him it. Do we have 24-hour coverage? Of course we don't. They don't care about 24-hour coverage. They don't want to work nighttime. They double them up during the day. So when I brought that up, oh, might have a school shooting. It's like, what kind of crap is this? And our budget is hideous. Deceit, that's what it is. They want to hoodwink us. They haven't done it to me yet. But they hoodwink most of the public to think they really love us. And
What would your opinion be of a police officer that's on duty by himself and a major incident goes down and we can't get mutual aid here quick enough? Is he to go in there by himself?
Well, first of all, we could give 1,000 incidents
Mhm.
why we need more police officers. And if I want to play that game, I could say we need 25 police officers because of what ifs. What ifs are everywhere. And I've had stuff happen to me that was outrageous, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It never got recovered. The police come out, they fill out the information, and that's the end of it, okay? Maybe a little more to find out share some information, but that's what most of that is. But the thing is, we had specials years ago that worked fantastic, and I can tell you a story that I'll guarantee none of the officers, full-time officers, want to take the challenge that a
Brian,
part-time officer did. Yes.
Brian, this is candidates night. This is not your soapbox to vent over the last 35 years. If you have a question, ask the gentleman a question.
We'll talk.
Okay,
We'll talk.
all right. Well,
Anybody?
Bob, I've been pretty quiet for many years, but this is the year that I think we're gonna have a hideous tax increase, and I think others should speak against that too.
That's not what this is for. This is, you ask a question of the candidates and they'll answer you, but it's not for you to, proselytize your positions in town.
Well, it is my, that how you feel, should we continue down the path of taxing like it's going?
We would, in my opinion, we would need to sit down and reevaluate what the budgets consist of, where the money's being allocated, and look to try to find some ways of saving. Like everybody else has a budget that they have to work with for their households. I'm kind of in agreement that the town should be in the same boat. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, for Board of Assessors, we have Jim Coffey as a candidate. Jim, do you want to say anything about that position?
I'm here,
All right,
I can't hear you.
He wants
That's
to know
all
if
right.
there's anything you want to say
Oh, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, you have.
about that position, he said. Do you have anything to say about that position?
Sure.
Thank you for
Now
clarifying.
we're clarifying.
Specifically that.
Okay. I get here without falling over. Okay. Thank you and good evening. My name is Jim Coffey. I'm running for the Board of Assessors. Obviously, since nobody else signed up, it's not the hottest ticket around, but I first became a member of the Board of Assessors in 1981, and I was off and on it a number of times. And it's an optional board. In many towns, the selectmen are responsible for the assessing. In New Ipswich, there's a separate board that does it. And so we're responsible, we're an oversight board. We have a contractor we hire, M&N Associates, and we're responsible for property assessments, and timber tax, gravel tax. If you take land out of current use, we're responsible for that. I do want to make it clear, though, that we have nothing to do with your tax bill, okay? And how big it is or how little it is, that's how much the town decides to spend. Where we fit in is, think of the town as a big pie, and everybody's going to get a slice. It's the slice you don't want, and that slice is paying the taxes. So we're the one that determines what you pay next to this one over here and this and that. And so that's kind of what we do. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll say thank you. Thank you for putting time into that. I don't want that job.
And I've been a selectman a couple of times, and I don't want that job anymore either. But if it's okay with the moderator up there, can we cover the trustees of trust funds, since I'm running for that also?
Yes, we could move to that as well.
I'm running for trustee of trust funds because one of the other trustees asked me to do it because nobody was going to sign up. I have been a trustee of trust funds in the distant past, and I've also, in a job in another town, worked a lot with trustees of trust funds, and the trustees of trust funds are responsible for the care of money that's either donated to the town for special purposes or raised by taxation for a special purpose, and they're put into funds and they're invested. The trustees don't determine when to spend them. That comes from either a vote of the town, or if there's a board that has the authority to expend, then it would be that board. More often than not, it's a selectman. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Jim as a trustee of the trust fund? All right, thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Is Benty in the room?
He is not.
Okay. All right, so then, should we
What is
move to
Benty
planning
running?
board?
But Betty's running for trustee of trust funds for 3 years. I'm running for 1 year. He lasted me into it, but so he should have been here. I'll get even more.
All right, planning board, we have four candidates for planning board. We have Dee Daly, Josh Mahonen, Richard Smith, and Tim Somero. Is there anybody in the room currently?
D.
He is.
D is here.
All right, Dee, do you want to come forward and go first?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Dee Daly. My husband and I moved here following his military service about 10 years ago. And we both fell in love with the area. My husband kind of said, I want to live here. And what do you say to a man who has never lived in New England, who is afraid of the snow? You say yes. And so that's how we wound up here. And I came up a little early to get the house together while he was finishing his service. And about a year and a half later, started to come to planning board meetings and spent about 2.5 years as an alternate, and then was elected for my first full term 3 years ago. So it's been really neat because we came at a time when the town was in transition, and I seem to fall into things in the town when it's in transition. We came when there was a huge building boom in town. So the size of town had almost doubled over the course of 10 years. And so we came in on the tail end of that. And then when I was coming onto the planning board, the building was slowing down significantly. And so I know we hear intermittently about a need for a wider tax base. And commercially, we tend to focus on small business. So that means that residences become our next best tax base. So it's a real interesting perspective that I tend to bring to the board. It's not from an engineering perspective. It's not from a building perspective. It's from a systems perspective. That I'm in healthcare by trade, but I work in industry. So building bridges between groups and organizations tends to be the strength that I bring. And that's what I've been trying to do on the board for a while. One of the things that's been neat is being on the board is that I've been able to learn about the town by getting involved in some of the projects. So we have a capital improvement program that's off of the master plan, and I have been privileged to go through that process twice. And the neat part about that is I've gotten to know many departments in the town, how they work, where their funding is, where they're going to need funds down the road. And part of the goal of that is to level some of our taxes. That's always the intent of it, but I feel like we could do a better job even embracing that process a little bit more. So let me give you an example. We want, and I've heard as the town has grown, people want a little bit more as far as community services. We have a great youth athletic program that can be advanced. But we then have seniors who say, what about us? We have one of the oldest states, and we have a lot of retirees in town. How do we provide for them? And that, there's kind of been a bit of a hold on that. You know, do we have a senior center? It's kind of come up a couple of times. We've got enough other costs that may not be a priority. But folks have taken in the recreation department and they've turned tennis courts that weren't in use into pickleball courts. That was a really inexpensive way that we could meet members' needs and bridge kind of this hometown culture, low cost, with what people also want to feel a sense of community and an ability to be social and interact with each other. And so I think that's going through that process. It's often seen as why do we want to learn how to spend money, but it's also how do we spend our money in the right way, and that's what I try to bridge the gap on within the planning board. So I'm also part of the gravel pit, we call it the rock tour, the gravel pit inspections. And how do you do that with a light touch? You know, gravel isn't a ton of money, but you know, how do you make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do? And so I enjoy doing some of that. We've accomplished some pretty intense things on the planning board, and sometimes folks say, how come it takes so long? Well, let's talk about the cell phone tower. You know, here going through that cell phone tower hearing process, there are a lot of people that we thought were going to come in the doors guns ablaze and saying, not in my backyard. And yet people started saying, well, what if there's an emergency? And wouldn't it be nice if we had better cell phone service? So finding and bridging and kind of finding that fine line through all the competing interests is one of the things that I try and work really hard to do. So as we go forward, the town is evolving. How do we do that in a wise manner? That's what the planning board is supposed to do. I think there's a lot more that we can do. We also have to be able to figure out how we're going to do it and forecast a plan. And our master plan is getting fairly dated, and yet by the same token, that what I hear in this meeting is the hometown feeling and some progress. How do we blend those two things together? So that's the role I tend to try and play on the planning board. And with that, I'll take some questions. Not near as exciting as the selectmen. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Dee. All right, we have Richard Smith on the line. So also goes by Craig. Craig, do you want to unmute yourself?
I just did. So, greetings, residents of New Ipswich. My name is Richard Smith. I go by Craig. I'm running to represent and serve you on one of the 6 primary positions, if you would. 2 are up for election of the planning board, New Ipswich Planning Board. I have been serving for the past 2 years as an alternate. I do not have 30 years of experience living in New Ipswich. We bought a home here 5 years ago. My wife and I, we both hailed from a military and government background. We decided to move up here for many of the things that I'm hearing people like about the community, because we equally liked it. I fell in love with it very, very quickly. I'm running to get to be an elected member because I would like to change my ability to influence decision-making on the board. It's not that my position has been muted in any way whatsoever, but if I'm an alternate, I don't necessarily have a vote. I get to listen, I get to give a little bit of advice, but you know, really I'm like an apprentice. I'm learning, and as you heard with Dee and others, from a planning board perspective, it would be that's the first step up to being an elected member. So why am I actually doing this a little bit more? You know, I'm passionate about our community. I'm involved. I'm a substitute teacher. Lou and I, who that you heard from earlier today, this evening actually, we have stood up and said that we wanted to get a broadband committee going in the town, and we're doing that. It's a little bit of a tough road to hoe, but we've kicked that off because we're trying to make some improvements that we're actually missing out on, seriously missing out on. My position basically is to work with the committee, remain open and honest, with the goal of improving our quality of life, and that we don't sacrifice it in any way. My goal is to connect with our citizenry, sorry, it's a tongue twister. To improve townwide efficiency, infrastructure improvements, safety and health of the welfare of our community are all on my heart. So that's kind of where I sit. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your support.
All right, thank you, Craig. All right, we also have candidates, Josh Mahonen, is he present? And Tim Somero.
Nope.
All right, then let's move on to town clerk, tax collector. We have Deborah Deaton.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so I don't like public speaking, so bear with me. My name is Debbie Deaton. I've been working at the town office for 4 years in the land use role as planning board and board of assessors support. And I have learned so much, and I was also alternate on the planning board. And I've learned so much with that. And also for the last 2 years, I've been in the deputy town clerk tax collector role. And due to some staffing issues over the summer from July to December, I was both land use jobs and the deputy town clerk tax collector, and I also did payroll a few times. So I feel like I have a good understanding of how it all works in the town office. And I also feel like the Board of Assessors support role gives me a good background of understanding both sides of the tax collector part of the job. And when I was appointed in January, I changed the town clerk hours to Monday through Wednesday, 9 to 4. So it's open every morning instead of just 2 mornings. And I also changed Thursday to 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I've added the last Saturday of every month from 9 a.m. to 12. And I'm hoping that will be a little more convenient for our residents. And that's about it. Greatly appreciate your vote. Any questions? Sorry.
Is Jessica running?
Jessica is not running.
She's not running.
No. No, it's an elected position, and she doesn't live in New Ipswich anymore. So she had to resign, and then because I was the deputy, they appointed me.
I'll just make a comment. She did an awesome job through all that.
Yep.
Absolute chaos.
Oh, me? Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a little hairy for a while, but we all got through it together.
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
Deb, I have never seen anybody in your position attack a situation or an issue like you have. You're on the top of my list.
Awesome.
But I'm wondering, after all of your experience in the town, did that drive you to make changes even before you were elected, like changing hours and things of that nature? You saw a need and you struck out to make it right.
Yes. Yeah. Laurie and I both spent a lot of time telling people that, the town clerk wasn't open until 1 o'clock or whatever in the morning. So, and I'm not trying to diss Jess at all because she did an awesome job and love her to death. However, a lot of people did complain about the mornings not being there if they took time off of work to come in and register a car and then they're not there. And so that's why I said, well, if I'll be, you know, I asked her if she would want me to be the deputy. So she said that would be great. So when she went to a conference or if she was on vacation or out sick, I would cover the office so the office didn't have to be closed. And that the whole morning thing, it was inconvenient for a lot of people. So far it seems to be working out really well. I've opened at 9 in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays since January, so a lot of people are very happy about that. But, yeah.
I'm also wondering if you can speak a little bit on your support for changing the town mapping so that we've heard a lot about taxes here and concerns, and how is that town mapping software going to help the residents that you helped push forward for?
So, not as town clerk tax collector, but as the, being on the, you know, support for the Board of Assessors, that would help the town immensely, I feel. Everyone knows my standpoint on that, sorry. But it would cost 7 cents per household per 1,000. And like, if you wanted to break it down into a one-time fee, it would be like $19 per household to get the tax maps. It's like a 3-year process. They dig into the deeds to make sure everybody's property lines are where they're supposed to be, etc. And if you overlay like wetlands or anything like that onto your property, you're gonna get a correct, you know, where the wetlands are, because they're known and they're GPSed by the state. So you overlay that onto our tax maps now, and it's not very accurate. So you could run into a little bit of trouble if you did have wetlands or whatever on your property, and I feel very, very strongly and passionately about that. So, thanks for bringing that up.
And lastly, can I ask, am I to assume, or we as a community are to assume, that you will continue to serve in your future capacity as what you have done in the past, i.e. selfless service?
That's kind of how I am, so yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I would.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I want a
Yeah.
little follow-up, and I'm
Sure.
just gonna ask him in a real, I'm a simple type of a, you know, I don't get all sophisticated a lawyer talk and nonsense.
Okay.
Is that wetlands, is that talking where they would protect somebody if they happen to have a mosquito puddle on the land, or is it to come after people and see if you can nail them for something?
No, not at all. It's your duty. If you want to, say you want to build a big, huge garage for all your toys on your property, and you overlay the wetlands on top of the tax map, and so you know where you can, you know, build that garage on your property. And if you have wetlands and you think it's over here, and you wanted to build your garage right here, and how did I get into this? Anyways, so
Well, because you mentioned
well,
the
yeah, they did.
wetlands thing.
So yeah, so if the tax maps on the base are wrong to begin with, and your wetlands aren't really over here, they're a big swath across here, and you don't realize because there's a whole bunch of stuff that categorizes wetlands. It's different kinds of plants and grasses, and it's not necessarily all the time
Mosquitoes.
wet. Yeah. So, but if you disturb those wetlands or conservation areas, then you can get in trouble with the state. So you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So you want to say, oh, I can't build my garage here. I have to build it over here more, or, you know, you have to have wetlands delineated, etc. Yes, Jim.
I have a question for the tax collector,
Oh, thank you.
since we seem to have gotten off. Two things. One is, Christmas is the last Saturday of the month. I assume you'll be closed. And,
I hope
but I
so.
think I just want to comment, it's a great idea to be open then. Not Christmas, but
Right.
the last Saturday of the month.
Right.
When do you register dogs? When's the first time you can go in?
You can register them now.
Okay, good.
And they have to be registered by April 1st. And if they're not, then we would send out letters saying you need to register your
Brought that
dogs.
up because people tend to
Yeah.
forget.
Right, yeah, yeah, they
It
can
becomes a
be
nuisance
registered
to the
now.
police, to you,
Yeah,
and everybody.
yep, so register your dogs now. Come on in, you can do it online if it's a renewal. Oh, that's another thing, you can renew your taxes on, you can renew all your registrations online. There's a small fee. If you use a credit card, it's a bigger fee, but it's the same whether you do it online or in the town office. And if anybody has any suggestions for me, feel free to see if I can make it work. Yes?
That, when you said the overlaying the map, the, wetlands and the thing, you
Yep.
said it's like, say $19 or somebody says per
Yeah.
thousand. Is that, every year?
No,
Or
one time. If you added up that 7 cents per 1,000 because it's a 3-year project,
Oh, yeah.
if you added it up all together, it would be $19 per household. And like the total cost, the estimates that we got were $145,000. The Conservation Commission is paying for half of it, and then the taxpayers would pay for the remaining half, and it would be $37,000, right, Jim, per year for 3 years?
No,
Ballpark?
It's not quite that. It's actually less.
Okay.
The article was written, half of the cost would come from a conservation fund.
Yep.
1/4 of the cost would come from the undesignated fund balance of December 31st, 2020.
Yep.
And 1/4 of the cost would come from general taxation.
Right.
If I could just add one thing to this, it's not just sticking a wetlands map on
Right.
top. You have to
There's a
think
whole
of
bunch.
it in terms as, there is a base map of the town, not that we made, but there is one that's been GPSed and everything else. When you take our tax maps and lay it on top of it, it comes out tilt.
Yep.
The other layers that go on top are much closer to reality. So what you end up with, for example, I live on Wilson Hill Road. I own the road and across the street and I lose half my backyard. I mean, everything is skewed.
Yeah, mine's the same way. I own half across, over.
But it's not just
Yep.
that, it's also
It's
each
true. I know.
individual
We're off.
parcel, but we're off the subject.
Yeah,
It's
But
not fair
anyway.
to give you that question.
that's okay. All right, anybody else have any questions? Thanks.
All right, thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
All right, for treasurer, we have Carleen Wardwell running. Is Carleen here tonight?
No.
All right. We have nobody running for cemetery trustee, so feel free to initiate a write-in campaign. Is Julie Lampinen in? She is running for school board.
No, not here tonight.
All right, I believe that's, are there any other candidates running as write-ins who are in the audience or in Zoom land?
Can we ask a question about the school board, even if she's not here?
Who's gonna answer it, Brian?
Well, isn't this supposed to be televised somewhat out there?
It's the candidate's night. The candidate isn't here.
Well, I still wanna know something.
Okay, you can ask your question.
Yes, I
Go to
wanna,
the
I
school
wanna
board.
know, are we $1.7 million shortfall in the school board to the school budget? And what is that basically gonna do for our impact on our taxes? I've heard rumor of 13%, is that true?
I don't think there's anybody here who can answer that question, Brian.
Well, let it be known.
Did you go to the school board meeting?
No.
Oh, that would be a good place to ask.
All right, well, thank you to all the candidates who came forward tonight and to all the citizens who posed questions to them tonight as well. And I'll turn it over to the selectmen for their meeting.
Well, just one other question, is Julie the only one running for school board?
As far as I know, that is correct.
It's a write-in too, right?
It's a write-in?
Yes. Nobody signed up. I wanted for school board.
I believe
I can read and write.
I believe Julie did sign up because I believe she's on the ballot.
So she might not be right.
Hmm?
He said she's on the ballot.
How do we find out?
Well, I've seen proofs of the ballot, so I believe that she's on the ballot.
She told me she's running, so, anyway.
There's a difference between running as a write-in.
No,
I know.
he said,
She-
he
she-
said,
she never
she's on
said-
the ballot.
she
She's
never
on the
said
ballot.
right.
She is on the ballot?
That's what he said.
Oh, okay, good. There's somebody on the ballot.
And she's on the ballot, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob.
Diane, I can answer your question.
Yes.
There's a
Thank
form
you.
out there called an MS 26. It's the posted budget of the school.
Well, thank you.
On the
You're
bottom
welcome.
of
Thank you very
the
much.
last page is the amount of money to be raised by taxes. Estimated. You look at that MS 26 and look at one from the prior year and look for the difference. It's as simple as that. Or you look at the tax rate setting from last fall and see how much was raised for the local education tax and compare the two. That's all you have to do. I didn't care. The school.
No.
The school is a whole
No,
other
yeah,
politics. It has nothing to do with the town.
So is that
The
the
town
town
is just a bill
non-public?
collector.
Yeah, but I mean,
And we got the
So,
lowest town tax rate
Yeah,
in
the
the
non-public really
neighborhood.
came up today
So
based on
before
the
everybody gets
discussion
wound
of
up,
DTC.
our town tax rate is low if you equalize it compared to everybody around us.
it ain't lasting.
The only other
It
thing
ain't
I have
lasting, though.
is
It's
the
not
amended
lasting, though. I call it 8%
lease
increase,
document.
very much big increase. Yeah, but, you know.
It's the increase
I
in
don't know,
tax,
do you
well,
want
it's
to do
not
that
the
public or
taxes.
non-public?
You have two things. You have spending and you have income. You gotta look at the income.
Right,
You
so
gotta
you
look at the
had,
whole picture.
yeah, so you had made some
Yeah, I look
notations
at
last
the total
time
tax bill
that you wanted to change,
only is
so-
about 10 to
so
20%.
they did,
Yeah.
88% of the tax bill is school.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that doesn't excuse it, Tom. I hate that excuse.
Are you,
It's kinda
are
like
you
if
out
somebody,
fighting over at the school board about their,
am I what?
are you fighting with the school board?
I fought there for so many years, I'm sick of it.
Well, I'm sick of it. I'm asking, are you?
What's that?
And it ain't anywhere.
Shut the Zoom off.
You don't like me just like
Okay.
they do
Now we're
here.
gonna go right
Run
in.
for
to
school
non-public.
board.
I say.
Run for school board.
No, I'm not gonna run for school board, not gonna take it all over me, just like they did for
I was
13
asking
years
him to
when I was
shut it
on the
off.
budget
Yeah,
committee
did
and
you get
finance
anything
advisory
on the,
committee. Same thing, Jim, I've been through, I know how it works, I don't have to go through
Right,
nine
you're
years to
chasing
find
the
out how it
wrong part of the
works.
animal though.
Huh?
You're chasing the wrong part of the animal. So anyway, you gotta have.
You know what?
What's that?
Just in case you forgot, I haven't changed.
Did you ever have a mole?
No.
Your mole rifle?
Your mole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was, I thought John Lisa was upset about this, where was he then?
Oh, my relative?
I thought he was so upset about it.
Oh, I know where they are.
Yeah.
You had to be out of town.
You know what?
No, you were looking for a rifle.
Oh, no, I never did.
Relish it, we get a 30%.
Gentlemen,
M-O.
gentlemen, as much as we'd love to have you here, we're just going into a non-public and we're done.
Are you?
So-
Okay.
You really want to hang on to that.
Thank you, Scott.
all right, you're welcome.
David, good luck in your retirement from this.
My retirement permanent.
Are you retiring from Hunter also? or-
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
later in the year.
Are you staying in the area or you?
Yeah, yeah.
Where you
I'm
going?
traveling.
Did you end up getting, that horse from Jenny's daughter or whatever out of, Florida? You've got
I
a
never
jumping-
even,
You've got a jumping horse now, right?
I have no horses now.
Oh,
That's
no?
why I can retire.
I thought that you were looking at,
The check went out, right?
yeah, that you were looking at a hunter jumper or something.
For which?
That's what I had.
Oh, okay.
The electric company.
Since I put him down,
Not as of yet.
That's
As
fine.
of yet?
it is.
I've had to put 2 down. And it's really hard.
You've talked to our attorney though, right?
I did.
One of them I had for.
Yeah, Matt Surge sent me over.
She was 32 years old.
Matt Surge sent me over some information, yes.
And,
Okay.
you know, and I had her since she was about 6. And that was tough.
Yeah, yeah. You go to them.
That wasn't Matt. Matt wasn't the electric, that was, Matt was the telephone company.
But anyway,
No, I think he was also Eversource.
Huh?
He was Eversource as well.
Was he?
He was.
I thought, Ciandella was.
So they were all involved, but he was part of that
Okay, he
team.
was part of that, okay.
Well, we for Sean, where are we with getting rid of properties for auction?
So, hopefully soon. So what I'm trying to do is by next week's meeting, I'm gonna have the, eviction notices ready. So that with your approval, we can send them out. One of them is gonna be a little complicated. Because of the individual involved, so the police are gonna have to
Yeah.
serve that, that's gonna go certified mail. And then once that's done, there's really no reason why we can't put a plan together to either seal bid or auction each.
Yeah, we gotta do something. Good. John, is that?
John's supposed to be back next week.
except that it's still a lot of work.
Oh, I'm not
It's
saying
not
it's
a
not.
line, so it helps, it's, and it has some of it, so it's clear, because yards, you know, everything's out there, you know. It's just the time to get.
Yeah, we'll check that.
Okay.
So it's still, it's not having to do.
Need a motion?
Yep.
So what are we going
This is
into?
under the end of 2E.
2E. Motion to enter non-public session under category 2E. Consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.